together. After we are done installing, it will take a bit of time to download. Meanwhile, we will start our session, the theoretical discussion. And by the time we get into the last part, hopefully everyone will have the app and the model downloaded. So let's do that together. I've already given a link on our Teams group. So the software's name is LMStudio. So I'll give you a brief about what LMStudio does. So if you go to this website, you will see download for Windows. Hopefully everyone is able to see it. If you face any problems at any point, please let me know in the chat and I'll try to resolve it. So when you see that button, just click on it and make sure you download it to your D drive, because if you download it to your C drive, our security system will basically delete that. So make sure that you download the file into the D drive. It's a 300 megabyte file and it will probably take a few minutes to download. So while everyone is downloading the app, I will basically give you a brief overview of what this is. So every LLM tool there is, including ChatGPT, Gemini, everything, they are basically like a executive file. So that file is normally very big and it runs on a very big server at a very big cloud provider company. For example, if Google has a server with NVIDIA servers, the exe file for the LLM, it basically runs on a computer. So when we ask ChatGPT a question, what happens is that particular file gets run on that server and it gives us an answer. So LMStudio is basically an application that lets you use those files on your local machine. So what's going to happen when you use LMStudio is the executable file or the application file is going to run on your machine. So when we upload a file, let's say we upload a document to ChatGPT to get some feedback, what happens is that document gets sent to the server of Google or server of OpenAI. And they process that document and do everything on that particular server. So when we upload that document, we are not sure what they are actually doing with that file, right? But if we know that, okay, every processing that is going to happen with our file is going to happen on our machine, on our laptop, we can be sure that this file is not getting used anywhere. So that is what LMStudio will do. Every file, every chat that you have using LMStudio, it is going to stay on your machine. The whole processing is going to happen on your machine. Everything is going to stay within your machine. No one is going to be able to see anything outside of you. Now there's a bit of caveat that comes with it as well. The caveat is in case of LMStudio, the model's responses are not going to be as good as ChatGPT, but they're obviously going to be better than what a normal human would do in a short amount of time. So these are pretty usable. So hopefully by this time you have downloaded it. Now I'll show you the next step that we need to do. Please raise your hand if you haven't been able to download it. I'll try to help you out. Okay, I'll guess everyone has downloaded it. So now I want you to open the app, LMStudio. And when you open, you're going to see a dashboard like this. Can you confirm if you can see this dashboard? See. Miraj Bhai is saying it's blocked. Bhai, you need to download it on your D drive. Otherwise, it will block the file. So you need to download it on your D drive, not the C drive. The default location is C, but we need to download it to D drive.
Can you
Hopefully that
send
will.
the path?
How would
Can
we
you
change, Salman bhai? How would we change the direction?
Uh, I think like when you download it, there should be an option to select like the download directory. Otherwise, what you can do is on your browser settings, you can set the default download location to D.
Got it.
Hi Salman, it's Mukabbir here.
I think
Just
download করার পরে ব্লক করে দেয় আর কি। মানে ডাউনলোডটাই ব্লক করে দেয়। Okay. Okay. People who are having a bit of trouble, I'll
আমরা
help you
একটা
out.
জিনিস করতে পারি, সেটা হচ্ছে যে ডাউনলোড করে ফাইলটাকে কপি করে ডি ড্রাইভে নিয়ে যেতে পারি, পেস্ট করে ওখান থেকেও মেবি ট্রাই করে দেখতে পারি।
হ্যাঁ, এটা একটু দেখতে পারেন যে
না,
কপি।
দেলোর
কিন্তু
দেলোর
সেই
ভাই একটু
সুযোগ আমরা
ডাউনলোডিং
দেলোর
সেই
ভাই
সুযোগটাই পাচ্ছি না।
ডিরেক্টরি চেঞ্জ করার অপশন নাই, অপশন মানে লক করা
হ্যাঁ,
আর কি
আমি
আমাদের
ডাউনলোড
সিস্টেম থেকে।
করে ডি ড্রাইভে নিয়ে গেছি, এখন ট্রাই করছি।
আমাদের এখানে যেটা দেখাচ্ছে, আমি তো ক্রোম থেকে নামাচ্ছি, যেটা দেখাচ্ছে ডাউনলোড হচ্ছে, এরপর সাথে সাথে সেটা ব্লক দেখাচ্ছে। আমি কোনোভাবে এখানে
এখানে ভাই যেটা
লোকেশন
করতে পারেন, একটু ব্রাউজারের সেটিং এ গিয়ে ডিফল্ট লোকেশনটা চেঞ্জ করে নিতে পারেন।
চেঞ্জ
মানে
করাটাও
ডাউনলোডের একটা
লক করা
আসলে
আছে।
চেঞ্জ করার পারমিশনটা নাই, আমি দুইটা ব্রাউজার থেকে
ও আচ্ছা।
চেক করলাম,
রাইট
সো
রাইট।
এটা লক করা।
আচ্ছা, আমি যেটা করেছি, ডাউনলোড হয়েছে আমার এখানে, আমি সি থেকে কপি করে ডি তে নিয়েছি, আমার এখানে এখন ইনস্টল হচ্ছে।
আপনি আপনারটা কোন উইন্ডোজ প্লাস হচ্ছে, আপনি কি কোন ব্রাউজার থেকে করছেন?
আমি ক্রোম
মিরাজ
থেকে করেছি।
মিরাজ আমি ক্রোম থেকে করছি, এটা হচ্ছে কিন্তু হ্যাঁ, এটা হয়তো কোনো
হচ্ছে,
সেটিংস এর ব্যাপার আছে। হ্যাঁ,
আমার
চেক
অলমোস্ট
করছি।
ইনস্টলেশন হয়ে গেছে।
আমার আসলে হয়নি, ডাউনলোড হয়েছে, ডাউনলোড হওয়ার পরে আর ওপেন হচ্ছে না।
হ্যাঁ, ওখান থেকে আপনি ডাউনলোড থেকে এটাকে কপি
এটা
করে
চেঞ্জ
ডি
করার
ড্রাইভে
মানে
নিয়ে পেস্ট
কপি
করেন।
করার সুযোগই দিচ্ছে না।
ও, কপি করার সুযোগ দিচ্ছে না।
রাইট।
ভাই আমরা একটা কাজ করি, আমরা এটা রিজলভ করে নিবনি, পরে যাদের প্রবলেম হচ্ছে এই সেশনটা
শিওর
রেকর্ডেড
শিওর,
থাকবে।
আমরা
So,
আমরা আমরা কন্টিনিউ করি। আমরা
জি ভাই।
এখানে প্রবলেম না হলে আমরা অন্য কোনো পিসিতে দেখতে পারি।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, জি ভাই।
আমরা কন্টিনিউ করি।
Okay, bhaiya. So basically, after we have downloaded the files, when you open the software, hopefully সবার download হয়ে গেছে. So when you open up the software, this is the UI that you will see. So this is what it looks like at the beginning. I have a few chats, that's why it looks a bit different. But normally it would look like this and it will be empty. And in the bottom, you will see three options: user, power user, and developer. So we will select power user for now. And then what we need to do is go to the search discover button. So when you click on that button, it will basically show you a lot of names here. So this is the model search panel. So we can think of this as like a app to install games. So let's say let's say how do we download games these days? We have a Steam account. We have a big library that they provide, and in that library they have a lot of games, and we download whichever game we want to play. That is how LMStudio works. So in this app, you will see a lot of models. Think of this as games that you will use to run on your machine. So from this, you can choose any model that you want based on your use case and your machine's capability. So for us, what we will do is we will use a very small model. It's going to be Gemma. So you will search Gemma and you will see 3 billion, you will see a lot of Gemma 3 models. So in among these models, we are going to choose Gemma 3 1 billion. So just go to the search bar, type in GEMMA, Gemma. Then you will click on show more stuff pics and you will see this option, Gemma 3 1 billion. Then we will click on that option. When you click on that option on the right, you will see a lot of detail about this model. We don't need to understand any of these. What we need to do is there's going to be a download button somewhere. Sorry. Yeah, there's going to be a download button on the bottom. So since I have this already downloaded, it's not showing me, but let's say this was the model. So you will see like a download button here, and it's probably going to say 1.6 GB or 700 megabyte or something. So just click on that. When you click on that, it's going to basically start downloading the file and it will load up here. Okay. So far, we have started a download. Something is downloading and something is happening. We will not look at this for a while now. We will just go back to our discussion and we will come back in the later part of the presentation.
Sorry,
Okay.
Gemma 3 1 billion. Or
Gemma 3 1 billion. So this is the model pair. Gemma 3 1 billion. We can also use the 4 billion as well. I will explain what these billions mean later on. But the bigger the billion is, the bigger the size is, the better the model is. But the better the model is, the more RAM it requires. So for our device, 1 billion or 4 billion works really good. Since we are at a time crunch, we will download the 1 billion so that it's faster, and later on you can download the 4 billion one. Okay. Hopefully everyone has started the download. Okay, now let's move on to our actual presentation and we will discuss our actual discussion. Okay. So this is the slide that had the presentation access. So you can scan the QR code to access it if you haven't opened the site. I will move on. Okay. So let's start with a question first. What are LLMs? Like we've been hearing this word for a long amount of time, and we want to know like what this is. So LLMs is basically a type of artificially intelligent model. So when we talk about artificial intelligence, it is the biggest scope that we talk about. So artificial intelligence is the umbrella term. Under that, one concept is called machine learning. And under machine learning, the concept is deep learning. And LLM is basically a subpart of deep learning. So LLM basically utilizes deep learning methodologies to give us an artificially intelligent model. So for an LLM, what makes an LLM? Like why is it different? So LLMs basically have two capabilities. The first one is language understanding, meaning that it understands what you tell it. It is able to understand language. The second part is language generation. Based on what it has understood from your text or from your question, it is able to generate something from that understanding. So LLM is a combination of two things. First one is language understanding and the second one is language generation. Both of these combined have made an AI system so capable that it is able to answer any question from any domain. Anything that we ask it to do, it is able to do it. But underneath, it basically knows just two things. One, it understands language. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm meeting. Sorry, my screen wasn't shared. Okay, is the screen visible now? Okay, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, sorry about that. So I was saying LLMs are basically a combination of two things, language understanding and language generation. These two concepts, these two capabilities make LLMs very good. So let's say before LLMs, what we would do for natural language processing or for understanding and giving output to humans, what we would have is basically separate models for every task. Let's say I wanted to do a translation from Bangla to English. I would need a model for that. Let's say I wanted to do a translation from Bangla to Hindi. I would need a different model for that. Let's say I want to do a summarization. I would need a different model for that. But LLMs are basically a singular model that is able to take care of multi-dimensional tasks. It can do anything. It can do multiple things at the same time, which was not possible previously. Now, LLMs seem very amazing. They can do a lot of things, and we know that, okay, they have proper language understanding and they know how to generate language. But how did we come here? So the story for LLMs, it started back in 2017. So in 2017, there was a paper published called Attention is All You Need. And that paper basically changed everything. So it basically started something called transformer revolution. So it is basically, we will not get into deep of it, but it is basically a new type of training process that happens that makes these models work a lot better than the other versions that we talked about. So this architecture was first developed in 2017 through just a research paper. In 2018 to 2020, companies like OpenAI, companies like Google, they worked really hard and they started giving us glimpse of the capabilities of models made with transformer architecture, or the paper that was published at that time. The actual breakthrough we saw was in 2022 when ChatGPT launched 3.5. When ChatGPT launched GPT 3.5, it made like it broke everything. It was a model that was able to do everything. It was able to rewrite emails for you. It was able to read documents for you and answer your questions based on that. It was able to translate text, whatever you gave it. It was able to basically do everything that a normal person would ask a secretary or assistant to do. And that is what basically gave birth to the AI bloom that we see today. And every company now wants to have AI. And that is the reason behind that happening is the launch of ChatGPT in 2022, ChatGPT 3.5 in 2022. And after that, after 2022, we basically moved on to a new paradigm where in 2022, the models that we had, those were only capable with text. But these days, the model that we have are not only capable of text, they can search the internet. They can browse the internet for you and do your actions. They can generate images. They can understand images. They can read whole files. They can generate code for you to do everything. So from 2022 to 2025, we basically have made a jump, not in terms of the model itself, but in terms of capabilities, new capabilities that came into the model. Before it was only text that it could work with. Now it can work with everything. It can understand our voice. It can generate voice. These are the things that it is able to do these days. Okay. So my screen is okay. 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 Sorry about that. Okay. So those are the things that we have done in the past 2 or 3 years, and the future is basically going to be a lot different than what we see today. Okay. Now, LLMs, when they were first initialized, they were given to us in a chat format. Just like every new technology, they have a particular format that they are launched into. Let's say when we talk about internet, what was internet used at the very beginning for? It was used to send fax messages. It was used to send emails. But now everything that we do basically requires internet. So every breakthrough technology, every breakthrough in human civilization has started off with a very simple thing, and it has gradually transformed like different parts of the lifestyle that we have, the society that we have. So LLMs, for in case of LLMs, they started with a chat interface. It started with something that we can talk to, something that we can have conversations with. People are even seen like treating AI as their friend and talking to them the whole day. So that is where LLMs have started, but this is just the surface. Underneath, there are a lot of developments that are being made, and a lot of the aspects of our life are going to be driven by LLMs. So I like to think of LLM as the internet for future. So internet is basically like a ground that on top of a lot of things built up. Let's say we built e-commerce sites. We built we built like driving applications. We built food delivery applications. So every industry has built something on top of the internet. The same thing is going to happen for LLMs. LLM is going to be the base, and everyone is going to build a vertical on top of it. And the race right now we see between OpenAI, Google, then X's Grok, and other companies that we hear all about, they are basically trying to make the internet. So the concept is basically they are working on building the base of it. So whoever makes the best base, everyone is going to build on top of that, and the base is going to make a lot of money. So that is what they're doing right now. Google had the best search engine, and that's why they're one of the biggest companies right now. But think about Bing. At that time, they used to do very well. They were competing with Google, but Google won, and they basically ruled for 10, 15 years in the world. The same thing is happening with LLMs, and whoever is basically able to win this race is basically going to rule the next 10 to 15 years. So yeah, that is where LLMs are right now. So it's at a very primitive stage, but gradually it is moving forward. So we are seeing industry specific bots. We have seen like robots that are completely run by an LLM. So robot makes a decision by seeing what it's around him. So these are the things that are happening with LLMs. So LLM is basically, think about it of a CPU that drives the that has the ability to drive a lot of things. In telecom, there at this moment in telecom, there are a few use cases that have already started happening. For example, support chatbots. We at Banglalink and Rise, we already have the support chatbot, and I don't know if you know this, but 95% of all the messages that people ask us on our chat platforms on MyBL and Rise, more than 95% of them are answered by AI. Only 5%, only 0 to 5% of the time, a human has to come and intervene. Other than that, it is able to do everything, both on our MyBeal and Rise app. So we are one of the first companies to implement that in Bangladesh. Then call summarization is also a very good implication that is happening. Our Bangalink probably doesn't do it, but there are companies who have a lot of calls coming in and they can do a lot of reporting, do a lot of analysis based on the call summary. And then fraud detection also is a very common use case in case of LLMs in telecom. So now I would basically try to give you a bit of idea about how this LLM works. Like, what is this? Like, what does it actually do? How is it able to generate like a lot of text? And why does it generate like a few words at a time? Not why doesn't it just give us the whole answer at the same time? So I'll just give you like a very high level idea of what happens inside of an LLM. So when we started the session, we basically told that LLM is basically a machine that has two capabilities. First, it understands language. Second, it basically is able to generate something. So let's talk about the understanding first. So what happens is, let's say I ask this, her voice, let's say I gave this input to an LLM. We will not get into the sentence, but we will try to just figure out what the LLM actually gets. So when you send this message to an LLM, it doesn't get this whole sentence. What it gets is basically a set of letters combined together. So these are the parts that LLM basically takes in. So when we ask like, give me an answer, it doesn't get that text in full format. It basically breaks it down to smaller words and it takes that inside. So this, we will think about this as a model. And when it gets these inputs, from these inputs, it basically generates one single word at a time. So we will see an animation to get into the deep of it. The first part that I wanted to show you is basically the part where the input gets broken. This process is called tokenization, and these small letters that you see are called tokens. LLM doesn't understand sentences. It only understands tokens. So these things that you see, these are fed to the LLM. And we know that every AI, anything related to AI is basically related to math. So these words basically get converted to a single number and they are given to the LLM. That's what happens, nothing else. Now, how does it break up? How does it take a sentence and break it up to those words? So there are a few methods that it follows. This part that I'm talking about, it's not compulsory to understand it fully, but I just wanted to give you like a bit of glimpse so that if you get curious, you can learn the detail yourself. But I just wanted to give you a glimpse. So let's say I write a sentence that Banglalink is one of the best companies in Bangladesh. Now this whole sentence is never sent to the LLM. The LLM only gets like a broken sentence, broken parts of the sentence. So there are many ways that this breaking happens. The first type of breaking happens in word level. So how this text is broken will depend on the model, but it's basically a decision that they make. But this is what happens underneath. So Banglalink is one of the best companies in Bangladesh. So if we do a word level tokenization, it basically treats each word as a token. And every token is sent to the LLM. If we do a character level tokenization, it basically treats each letter as a token. The more tokens that you give the LLM, the more information it has and the more accurate it is. But if you break it too much, the answers are going to be inconsistent. That is why like they have to make a balance between like what they do. So in actuality, they do not do any of both. Like they do not do word level or they do not do character level. What they do is they do a subword based tokenization. So in subword based tokenization, what happens is it basically takes parts of words. Let's say I'm going to shopping. As you can see, shop is a word, and ing, adding ing to that makes another word. But in case of subword, it treats the shop as a token and the ing as a token. So let's say if I, instead of shopping, if I say playing, it would basically separate that. Then if I say gaming, it would separate that. So by doing that, it basically increases the accuracy and decreases the number of tokens. The more tokens there are, the more accurate the answer might be, but the model gets confused a lot. So with subword based tokenization, they get a balance. Now, if you didn't understand it, it doesn't matter. We don't need this for any part of the conversation. Now, for this stage, this part of the session, I would like to give you a very high level idea of how a model is trained, how an LLM is, how does it get so better, so good at everything? What happens in the training process? That is what we're going to learn now. So Okay. So I'll give you an overview of what we have learned so far. So far, what we have done is we have talked about what LLMs are. LLMs are a combination of two things. They have the capability to understand language, and they have the capability of generating languages. Then we talked about how these models are better than the other models that we had. The other models, for every use case, we needed a separate model, but for LLMs, one single model can do everything. Then we talked about how we got into the current era of LLMs. We also talked about a few use cases in LLMs in the industry across the world. And we also discussed how the current use case that we see is only the beginning of LLMs. They are going to go to the moon. And then we have started the discussion of our internal architecture of LLM, where we got to know about how the LLM understands text. Now we will move on to the next part, where we will discuss how a LLM is trained and how did humans make a model which is more capable than most humans. So this is the process of making a LLM product. Let's say this is ChatGPT. The fine-tuned LLM is basically ChatGPT. So what we do is we have a lot of data, unsupervised data. By unsupervised, I mean data that hasn't been processed in any way. So we have a lot of data. Where do we get the data from? We get that data from the whole internet. So what they do is they basically scrape the whole internet. Every document, every file, every website, every text, every image that is in the web, they basically scrape that. After you scrape the whole internet, you get a lot of data. I mean, hundreds of terabytes of data. So they take that data, they feed it to a model. Now they have a model which we call base LLM, or the base model based on which the other use cases are made. So this base LLM is good at predicting the next word. So the training that we see on the first step, it basically makes the model capable of understanding language. We talked about two parts. One is understanding language. The second one is generating language. So the first part of the training basically creates a model that is able to understand what we are saying. Once we are able to do that, we feed in a different type of data, a data that we prepare ourselves. We tune that model, and then we get a fine-tuned LLM, which is not only able to understand language, but is able to generate language as well. So I will summarize. In the first stage of training, we basically take a lot of data that we don't do anything. We basically take the data, give it to a model, take the text data, do a bit of pre-processing, do a bit of cleanup. We send it to the LLM. We send it to a model and train it. The model that we train here, the outcome of the first stage is a model that understands language. And to make it generate language, we basically have to send a different type of data that we create ourselves. And the model we get as an output is our fine-tuned LLM. This is the model that we normally have conversations with. This is a ChatGPT. Okay. Hope everything is clear. If you have any questions, please ask. This is a bit complicated and not necessary for you to use LLMs, but this is something that is going to help you a lot when you are having conversations with people, discussing about LLMs and stuff. Okay. This is when you go through this content, you will be able to read things out, and you will get you will hopefully be able to understand what is written. For example, in case of pre-training or the first stage, we have a large volume of data from different sources. We train a model, and we get a model with language understanding capability. Then what we do is in the second stage, we basically pass supervised data, which is basically like a set of questions and answers, like a question and a suggested answer that we give to the model, and we get a model that can do a task very good, that has language generation capabilities. So this is how the LLM are developed. Now, I have also created like a separate presentation, separate part for what happens in a pre-training process. I will not get into deep of everything. You can read it out if you yourself if you want. But these are the steps that goes into like the first stage of the training. And this is what goes into the second stage of the training. So both of these trainings happen separately and they have a separate set of goals. And the goal for the first training is to give you a model that understands language. And the second training happens for the model to generate answers in a way that we want. Now we know that how an LLM understands a language, how it perceives any question that we give it, how we train a model. Now we will basically have a very short discussion on how an LLM generates an answer. So let's say I ask the LLM a question, tell me about llamas. So this is the LLM. This is the engine that drives everything. So it gets the input. It obviously doesn't get it whole. It basically gets like word by word or depending on the tokenization, but it gets to the LLM. Now what the LLM is what the LLM does is it does not generate the whole thing at once. When we give the LLM this whole input, what it will do is it will basically predict just one single word. So based on this input, our LLM model generated that llamas should be the next word. And in the next step, what is going to happen? In the next step, when the LLM gets the next input, llamas is going to be added to the input. So for the next step, this whole thing is going to be the input. And it will come up with a new word. Similarly, when we are generating fascinating, before that, this part is going to be the input. So to simplify everything, the LLM generates word by word. It gets the whole input and it generates one word at a time. Once the one word is generated, it basically treats the whole thing, generated output and the previous input, as one block, sends it to the LLM again, generates the next word. So it generates word by word. So we will, if we see an example of what happens when we chat with an LLM. So I will go to ChatGPT and let's ask, what can you do? You will see that it basically generates, as you saw, it doesn't generate the whole thing. It generates one word at a time. So what's happening is it basically is generating one word at a time. That is why you see this loading one by one. If it was able to generate the whole thing together, it would have been able to give you the answer at once. But since it generates one word at a time, it basically loads like this. So this is the reason why you see this loading effect, because it's generating one word at a time. Okay. So this is how the LLM generation works. Now we are done with that part. We're done with the technical part. We're done with the concepts. Now we will basically go into the application capabilities or application based use cases, the things that we will actually use in our day-to-day life. Any questions so far in this part?
I think we're good to go.
Okay. So in this part, what we will do is we will basically, like the last lecture, in the last lecture, I gave you like a template for every type of image generation. Now what I'll do is I'll give you a master template, a template that you can use for any use case. And in every situation, you will get a very good answer. I will give you a step-by-step instruction on how to do that. So this is the template that we will follow, the general instruction template. There are a few other ones here as well I've kept for people who are interested, but we will focus more on this. So in the general template, there are a few parts that we will see. What are those parts? So when we are basically telling an LLM to do something, these are some of the things that we need to specify. First, we need to specify a persona. Persona is basically describing the LLM to act like someone. Let's say I want the LLM to generate me a report. So I want the LLM at that point of time to act as a person who is a very good report analyzer or who is a very good graph generator, graph understander. So if I tell the LLM that, okay, you are a very capable graph generation expert, it will hold that persona and it will try to carry on that persona. Then the other thing that we need to have is the audience. So if we for whom the answer is for, the LLM is more accurate. Let's say a use case where we are teaching like a class 9 student physics. So in that case, audience is a very big part of the answer for being very accurate. Because if we ask it ask it the concept of vector, it can like give us like any answer, right? It can give us the answer for a honor student even. But if we specify that, okay, your audience is going to be a class 9 student, it knows that, okay, I have to format my answer in this way. The other thing that you do is you give LLM context. Context basically means like what is the background of this question. Let's say I want the LLM to generate me a report. But if I give it a little bit of context, let's say I tell it that, okay, I need this report for this meeting where I will have these people from this department, and this report needs to be understandable by them. If I tell the LLM model that, it will know and it will answer that properly. The other thing that we can specify is the tone, like how the tone should be. Should it be professional? Should it be very casual? Should it be formal? Like these are the things that you mention in the tone part. Then you can also mention like the output format. For example, if you want the output to have like five paragraphs, or if you want it to be within 200 words, or if you want it to have like very good emojis in it, those are the things that you mention here. At the same time, you can also have something called constraints mentioned. So constraints basically is something that you tell the model not to do. For example, in the report, if you want to anonymize it, let's say that when you're writing the report, don't mention any names. So that is a constraint for that model. So it will read the report and it will probably get some names. But if you give it a constraint that, okay, you cannot specify any name, you cannot specify any department, these are the things that the LLM is going to skip. So now let's try that for a certain use case. We will work with a very simple use case. Let's see, work on a situation where we are teaching a class 9 student a concept of physics, let's say. So I will give it a persona. So if I'm teaching someone, then the persona should be of a teacher. So let's say I'll have the persona to be, you are a very expert physics teacher. And the more detailed I am, the better the answer will be. And I will also add with it, you are a very expert physics teacher who explains everything with examples. Who explains everything with examples. Okay. I can also specify other things. I can specify, let's say your answer is always in Bangla. You don't know any other language, things like that. But I will keep it here for now. Then I'll give it an instruction, like what it's supposed to do. So whenever someone asks you a question, you explain that topic to that person, like your student, with detail. I can give like further instructions as well, but I will keep it simple for now. Then let's say I want to have the audience. So the audience is students of class 9 in Bangladesh, let's say. So I gave it a demographic of who this response is for. Then I will give it a context. The context might be the student knows basic maths and has completed the chapter vector. vector in school. Okay. Now I'll give it a tone. So I want the tone to be very friendly. So I'll say friendly and casual. Now I can also give it the output format. So the output format should be a detailed text with points. So it will give me a lot of points. Now the constraint, I want the constraint to be do not include any math. Do not include any math. Don't have any examples related to, let's say this kid is scared of dogs. So I'll say dogs. Okay. So now we have basically given it an instruction with proper prompt. We still haven't asked it any questions. We will send this to the LLM. So it will basically now gather that persona, understand the instruction, and whenever we ask a next question, it will basically answer us based on these. So let's say it basically also gave me like a example topic as well, just to figure out like if it got it right or not. Let's say we will assume that it got it right. If it didn't get it right, we can just go in here and edit some of the things out. So let's say I wanted to teach, I want you to teach me gravity. As you see, it is basically giving us information in a way that we wanted. To verify that, what I'll do is I'll copy this text without any prompt engineering. I will basically create a new chat and ask the same question, and we will see the difference. The problem with ChatGPT these days is basically it remembers some of the things. So, okay. So this is the answer that we got after like prompting properly. It didn't have any math. It is very simple. It is to the point, and it basically is the content basically follows like the quality of a class 9 student. But if we go to the other question that we asked, probably forgot that. Let me ask it again. Chat. Okay, yeah. As you can see, it started like giving me Newton's law. Then it started giving me acceleration. It gave me bigger picture. It gave me a formula. So the answer is a lot different. So with proper prompting, you can make the model do anything. So if you use this template, you can basically ask the model to do your thing more efficiently. And all the things that we had in the template, none of them are compulsory. Based on your use case, you might want to remove the tone. You might not need the constraints. You might not need the persona. So depending on your use case, you will basically use whichever you want. But these are the things that basically helps the model understand what you want from it. So if you include these parts in your text, in your questions, it will start giving you better answers. Okay. Any questions in this part? Okay. Okay. Let's move on. Okay. Okay. So this is the template that you can use. You can just directly copy it from here and you can just use it anywhere. Now I also had like a few templates for reasoning and other stuff. This is not going to be useful for most of the people. So I will skip them. You can go through the content and you will be able to understand if you need. For example, if you need to extract information from a CSV file or something, I also have like a template for that here. Then if you want to generate code, review code, refactor code, we also have a prompt template for that as well. Now, I also have included like a few theoretical concepts of prompt engineering. I will just glide through these. So zero shot prompting, you don't need to remember these terms, just understand that zero shot prompting is basically when you don't give any example to the LLM. When you ask questions without any examples, that is called zero shot prompting. Few shot prompting is instead of just asking it a question, you give it a few examples. For example, I told it like I gave it a prompt and I gave it a few examples. So when we give it examples, it is able to answer more better. So let's say that I want the LLM to label something, label a sentence into positive or negative. So I gave it a few examples. And the next question I asked, it basically gave me the answer. So examples basically help the LLMs a lot. And if you give it examples that, okay, if someone asks you this question, this is what your response should be, it will basically most of the time try to follow that. So this is few shot prompting. And then there is a concept called chain of thought prompting, which basically asks the model to think a little bit more before answering. So if you give it a problem, a mathematical problem to solve, it doesn't happen these days that much because like the LLMs are more capable underneath. They have like a lot of uh, questions that it understands. Like based on your question, it basically does a lot of other thing inside. So it is able to know like for which question you need to do step by step and other stuff. But if you give it like a prompt to think step by step, it is able to solve mathematical problem, critical problem, thought critical problems a lot better. So I've explained everything here. If you are interested, you can obviously go through these and understand a little bit more. Okay, now we are almost at the end topics. So now I'll basically show you how to do deep research. So most of us probably don't use like ChatGPT Pro. So for this, we are not going to use the ChatGPT Pro one. We're going to use Gemini. I'll give the link in the chat. So Gemini is basically the ChatGPT alternative made by Google, which is also pretty good. And the best part about this is it's free. It's mostly free. Like you will get most of the features for free that you will not with other models. Okay, so this is how the dashboard of Gemini looks like. Here, you just like ChatGPT, you have the option to choose models. So let's say you want basically whichever model you want to have, you can choose this from here. Now, if you click on the tools button, you will find an option deep research. If you enable this, what it's going to do is it's going to search the entire web and it is going to give you like an overview of whatever you're asking. And it's going to take a bit of time. So let's say I wanted to do a market research on top OTT platforms in Bangladesh. So we have Toffee. So let's see if it gives Toffee or not. OTT platforms in Bangladesh. Give me an analysis of what are the strengths and weaknesses of each platform, and also give me a pathway for each of the company to become the market leader. Let's say I basically wanted to do that. Basically, let's say I have to make a case that basically wants us to give a idea about growing toffee to a certain market. So for this, like a deep research like this might help. So I will just copy this and I'll submit it. So once you submit it, it will basically give you like a prompt that, okay, I will do the research and you can come back. So in case of Gemini, what it does is when you ask it a deep research question, it basically first identifies a plan. So you can review the plan. Otherwise, like most of the time, you'll just click on start research. So when you click on start research, it basically starts, browsing the whole web, and it will show you that in real time here. So it will give you the objective, it will give you approach, it will basically give you like which websites it is traversing through. So as you can see, it basically went on to some research paper on ResearchGate. It also went on to Bongo, then a lot of other players. So as you see, like as it basically traverses through the web, it basically gets some of the information. So it has identified the prominent local players to be Chorky, Bongo, Bioscope, Hoichoi, Binge, Rabbit Hole. Okay, it didn't consider Toffee as an OTT. Hopefully it'll figure it out. So as you saw, like it got a few information, but it didn't give me the answer yet. What it did was first it got like 5 links. These 5 were probably the top links. Then what it did was it went inside of those links and it went on to a few other links that were in the later pages of the Google search. So the first iteration gave it like 5 links. The second iteration, as you can see, happened with a lot more links. It now went on to Wikipedia. It now went to a lot of other platforms. It went to Daily Sun. So it's basically researching like a lot of other platforms as well. So, and it's going to keep on doing it for a amount of time. It's going to take like, as we saw, as you can see, like it also says that it's researching 33 websites right now. So it will do this research for a while. And once you come back, you will be able to see like what report it generated. So we will let it generate. Meanwhile, we will see some alternatives as well. So another alternative for doing these search-based things, if you don't want to wait, is basically a tool called Perplexity. I'm sure like most of you have heard about it. So Perplexity does the same thing. They are the ones that basically started the web search paradigm of the LLMs. So if you ask it questions, you get those options here as well, like deep search option. So the deep research option is here as well, but you only get like 3 in the free version. So I will not do the deep research. I'll do just normal search. So what Perplexity does is the same thing. It basically like searches a few of the top links and it gives you some of the top players. So Toffee is basically number 11 according to this list. So it basically gave you like whatever search results it got, it basically gave you based on that. So one key finding that I personally have from this search is basically we need to do a lot better SEO, because Toffee didn't rank on the top of the list for Google. So the AI engines are not able to get Toffee. When they do a deep research, probably they will be, but since the SEO was not good, it basically didn't get it on the top list. So as you can see, like it gave me a lot of details. And what I can do is I can also ask it follow-up questions. So in Perplexity, you also get like follow-up questions as well. So let's say, what are the unique strengths of Bongo in the OTT market? I can just click on plus and it will basically start answering that question. So it gives you suggestion for follow-up questions as well. And Perplexity basically, like, since it searches for every query, the answers are a lot better and you get citations for almost every answer that it gives you. So these are the citations. I can click on any link and I can, if I want to read it further, I can go to that link and read it. So this is the article. And the same thing, like as you can see, Gemini is still going. It's still searching more websites. It also searched like the iOS App Store as well. So it's basically searching the whole internet and figuring out what's happening. So we will come back to this later, but hopefully you got an idea of what deep research does. It basically searches most of the top parts of the internet and gives you a report based on that. Now the possibility is immense. Let's say I want to create a business case for a product. I can gather the information of the demographic. I can gather the information for competitors. I can gather the information of who were the big players but failed. I can gather the information about who are the rising stars. So I can gather every information. And previously, like I had to look through like 10-15 different websites and it would have taken me hours. But now an LLM can visit like hundreds of websites within a few minutes and give me an answer. So this is how valuable it is. But one suggestion I would have is when you are doing anything with data, just validate the data with the links that the LLM provides you. So the LLM will mostly provide you with a lot of links. So just to do like a overall check, just go on to that link and test it, because sometimes it might hallucinate. Like LLMs hallucinate a lot. Okay, so the deep research part is done. Now I basically wanted to give you an overview of the LMStudio. So I'm not sure like if everyone has was able to install it. So what I'll do is I will record a video. That video will be available on the course platform website. So you will be able to see it. But for people who have been able to install it, I will just show you like how this chatting works and how the app works. Brief overview. And the recording of this call is also going to be in the system. So in this page, in the last page of the deck, I have like a installation guideline to install LMStudio. So you first install LMStudio, then you download a model. Then these two steps are what we're going to do now. So considering that you have, I'll assume that you have been able to download the model and the model is there on your machine. What you would be able to do is, let me delete all my previous chats. Okay, so this is how the UI is going to look like. Once you've downloaded the model, if you want to make it a bit decluttered, if you want to make it a bit cleaner, you can just click on this button, user button on the bottom, and it would like remove some of the features, because most of the features you will not need. So I will just click on user and I will start a new chat. So just like in chat GPT, you start a new chat with plus button, or you can also like click the button here. So it starts a new chat for you. So after you do that, you can't just ask it a question. When you write something down, it will basically tell you to choose a model to send a message. So what is happening here? Why do we need to choose a model? So when we talked about LMStudio, we basically said that everything that we do here is private. It happens privately, right? So the data that we have, everything, the processing, everything will happen on our machine. So what happens is we downloaded a 700 megabyte file, right? That file basically contains a list of numbers. That is, if you open, you can even open the model file. So if you open the model file, it will basically give you a list of numbers that is like 700 megabytes long. So you can imagine how many numbers it has. So it has a lot of numbers. So when we ask it anything, it basically uses those numbers to calculate the output. That is all that happens underneath. And when you load a model, what you do is basically the file that you have, the numbers that you have, we load it on the RAM of our machine. Why the RAM? Because the RAM is a faster. If we were to use those values from our disk or our hard drive, it would have taken a lot of time to get the answers. So that's why it basically takes the file and loads it onto your RAM. If your laptop has a GPU, it will load in onto your GPU. So by loading a model, we basically, what do? We basically take the file and place it in the RAM. So on your screen, on the top, you will see select a model option on the very top. You will click on that and whatever models you have downloaded are going to be available here. So let's say I'll select the Gemma 3 1 billion. Once you have loaded it, you have the capability to ask it questions. So let's say, hello there. How are you doing? I can ask it any question. And depending on your machine, the answer is going to generate faster or slower, just like a game. Um, the better your device is, the better the game runs. The same thing happens with these models as well. I can ask it other questions as well, like let's say I'll test it out. Like let's say that the LLM shouldn't know about me, right? So let's say, what university did Salman come from? It doesn't have any information. So it basically gave me a random information from a person in Cairo who was born in 1982. So it probably was in his knowledge somehow. So it didn't give me the proper information. Now what I'll show you, I'll basically show you how you can use your files to conversate with a LLM and for the data to be private. So let's say I'll start a new conversation and I want to chat with a file. Let's see if I can find a good file. So this. So I had written like a letter of sponsorship to the DSW once, like let's use this for now. Okay. Okay, I'll just upload this document. So this document has been uploaded. I'll show you what was in that document. It was basically an application. Cool. So this is basically a document that I made for like a participation in, let's say, a conference that I had, and basically it had like a lot of information. It had like a total estimated cost. It had like a lot of things here. So now what I'll do is just to show you that the LLM knows information about this file. I'll ask it a few questions about the document. So I'll ask it, what was the total cost? So it gave me a breakdown and gave me like a proper value. Then I'll ask it, when is the event? It gave me the date. Then let me ask it, what's the phone number? It also gave me the phone number from that document. So as you saw, like I had a document, random document that I uploaded to an LLM. This LLM is running on my machine, on my laptop, and it's able to answer everything related to that document. Now you can only imagine like how useful that is going to be in our use case. Let's say we have a very big legal document that we know that we need it to be private. We can't upload it to any LLM. So we can just upload it here and we can ask LLM questions about it. We can have like a confidential file that we upload here, and it's not uploading, basically it's loading. Because for upload, you send it to some server. You are not sending it to any server, it's basically on your machine. So you can just ask it any questions and it will be able to answer properly. Okay, so this is all I wanted to discuss about in this session. Hopefully you got a few information from it. If there is any question, like feel free to ask.
সালমান ভাই, আমার একটা কোশ্চেন ছিল।
হ্যাঁ ভাইয়া,
নয়েজ হচ্ছে। কোশ্চেনটা হচ্ছে যে আমরা যেটা শিখলাম সেটা হচ্ছে যে আমাদের
ভাইয়া আপনি প্রবাবলি মিউটেড।
সালমান ভাই, ঠিক শুনতে পাচ্ছেন?
জি ভাই, এখন শুনতে পাচ্ছেন, একদম ক্লিয়ার শুনতে পাচ্ছি।
কোশ্চেনটা হচ্ছে যে আমরা দুইটা জিনিস শিখলাম, একটা হচ্ছে প্রম্পট জেনারেশনে কিভাবে আরো এফিসিয়েন্সি আনা যায়, আর একটা হচ্ছে যে আমরা বাইরে যেন আমাদের ডাটাগুলো না যায় সেজন্য আমরা লোকালি কিভাবে ইউজ করতে পারি আমাদের কনসেপচুয়াল ইনফরমেশন।
জি,
এইটা হচ্ছে যে যদি আমরা পারমিশনটা পাই তখন আমরা এটা ইউজ করতে পারবো, আর তাই না? যদি পারমিশন না পাই তখন তো এটা ইউজ করতে পারছি না, তখন আমাদের বা যে সার্ভিস গুলো আছে ওইগুলোর হেল্প নিতে হবে।
জি ভাই, পারমিশন মোস্ট প্রবাবলি পেয়ে যাবেন। এটা বেসিক্যালি ওই যে ডাউনলোডের যে ইনস্ট্রাকশনটা, এটা মানে একটু ডি ড্রাইভে ডাউনলোড করতে হবে। আমি এমনিতে বাকি যেসব পারমিশনস লাগে সেগুলো আমি আইটির সাথে কথা বলে অলরেডি কিছু নিয়ে রেখেছি। যেমন মডেল ডাউনলোড করার যে ইউআরএলটা, ওটা অলরেডি হোয়াইট লিস্ট করা হয়েছে, এরকম কিছু কাজ আমরা করে রেখেছি। আর যেই ইস্যুগুলো ফেস করেছেন ওগুলো হয়তো আমাদের এইচআর ডিপার্টমেন্ট থেকে ওনারা সলভ করে দিবেন আর কি। সো হোপফুলি 2-1 দিনের মধ্যে আপনারা প্রপারলি ডাউনলোড করে এটা ইউজ করতে পারবেন।
আচ্ছা, এটার জন্য কি আবার সার্টেন টাইম পরে আমাদের কি আবার প্ল্যান নিতে হবে, মানে পারচেজ করতে হবে কিছু, নাকি
না ভাই, এটা ফুললি ফ্রি, যেহেতু এটা আপনার পিসিতে রান করতেছে। এটা জাস্ট আপনার পিসিতে রান করা একটা সফটওয়্যার মতো, ফ্রি সফটওয়্যার, যেটা আপনি আজীবন ইউজ করতে পারবেন। এবং যদি কোনো নতুন ভালো মডেল আসে, সেই মডেলটাও আপনি ফ্রিতেই ব্যবহার করতে পারবেন, মানে কোনো এক্সট্রা টাকা পে করতে হবে না। জি ভাই।
সালমান ভাই, আমরা তো একটা মডেল লোড দিতে পেরেছি, আর কোনো
জি।
সাজেস্টেড মডেল আছে যেগুলো মানে আমরা
হ্যাঁ।
মোটামুটি ইউজ করতে পারি?
জি ভাই, এটা আমার বলা উচিত ছিল। সেটা হচ্ছে এই মডেলগুলোতে যখন আপনি যাবেন, বেস্ট মডেল কোনটা এটা খুবই ডিসপিউটেড। এটা আপনি একটু গুগল করলে আপনাকে অনেকে এক একজন এক এক কথা বলবে। সো বেস্ট কোনটা আমি সেটা বলবো না, বাট এলএম স্টুডিওতে মানে কোন আইকনগুলো কি ডিনোট করে বা মডেলের কেপাবিলিটি গুলো আমি একটু বলি। তো এইখানে মডেলগুলোর দিকে তাকালে দেখবেন কিছু কিছু মডেলের সাইডে কোনো আইকন নাই। আইকন না থাকা মানে এটার কোনো স্পেশাল কেপাবিলিটি নাই। কিছু কিছু মডেল দেখবেন এরকম হলুদ চোখের একটা আইকন আছে। এই আইকনগুলো মানে এই মডেলগুলোর ভিশন ক্যাপাবিলিটি আছে। ভিশন ক্যাপাবিলিটি মানে কি? মানে হচ্ছে একে আপনি কোনো একটা ইমেজ দিলে সেই ইমেজটাও বুঝতে পারবে। সো লেটস সে আপনার যদি কোনো একটা রিসিপ্ট থাকে যেটা হাতে লেখা, সেটা আপনি এই মডেলকে দিলে এই মডেলটা সেটা বুঝতে পারবে যে ইমেজের ভিতরে কি আছে। তারপর আরেকটা আছে হচ্ছে এখানে দেখবেন একটা হ্যামার আইকন আছে। এই আইকনটার মানে হচ্ছে যে টুল ইউজ। এটা আপাতত আপনার মানে আমাদের ইউজ কেসের জন্য এটা দরকার নাই, বাট এটা আমি বলার জন্য বলি। সেটা হচ্ছে টুল ইউজটা বেসিক্যালি মনে করেন আমি কোনো একটা এজেন্ট বানাবো, আমরা নেক্সট সেশনে দেখবো। এজেন্টদেরকে বেসিক্যালি একটা স্পেশাল কেপাবিলিটি দেওয়া লাগে, তাদেরকে কিছু সেট অফ ফাংশন দেওয়া লাগে যে এই ফাংশনগুলো তুমি চাইলে কল করতে পারবা। মনে করো একটা ফাংশন আছে যে ফাংশনটা কল করলে আমার ইমেল অ্যাকাউন্ট থেকে একটা ইমেল সেন্ড হয়। সো যাদের ক্ষেত্রে আপনি দেখবেন এই হ্যামার আইকনটা আছে, তারা হচ্ছে এই ফাংশনগুলো কল করতে পারে। তার মানে ওকে যদি আপনি ইমেল দেওয়ার মতো কেপাবিলিটি দেন পারবে। কিন্তু আপনি যদি এই দুইটা মডেলকে ইমেল সেন্ড করার কেপাবিলিটি দেন, তবু আপনি শিওরলি বলতে পারবেন না যে ওই ইমেলটা সবসময় পাঠাবে কিনা। এটা হচ্ছে পার্থক্য। এখানে আরো কিছু ডিনোটস এর কিছু আছে, যেমন এখানে একটা দেখবেন যে গ্রিন ব্রেইনের একটা আইকন আছে। এই মডেলগুলো হচ্ছে থিঙ্কিং মডেল, থিঙ্কিং বা রিজনিং মডেল। এই মডেলগুলো যেটা করে মানে একে কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন করলে ও হচ্ছে একটু বেশি সময় নিয়ে আপনাকে অ্যান্সার দেয় এবং ও খুবই থরলি চিন্তা করে অ্যান্সার দেয়। এটা গেল হচ্ছে তাদের কেপাবিলিটি গুলো। আমি মোটামুটি সবগুলো আইকনের মিনিং বোঝানোর চেষ্টা করলাম। আরেকটা জিনিস একটু আমি বলতে চাই যে এই প্যারামিটার যেগুলো মানে এখানে 20 বিলিয়ন লেখা, 30 লেখা, আবার এখানে লেখা 30 ফর 480 লেখা, সেগুলো কোনটা কি মিন করে। এইখানে এই যে বিলিয়ন ভ্যালুগুলো দেখতেছেন এটা বেসিক্যালি ডিনোট করে, আমি বলছিলাম না যে এই মডেল ফাইলগুলো হচ্ছে একটা ইএক্সি ফাইল যেটার মধ্যে অনেকগুলো নাম্বার থাকে। এই নাম্বারটা ডিনোট করে যে ওই ফাইলটাতে কয়টা নাম্বার আছে। সো যদি আমার এখানে 4 বিলিয়ন লেখা থাকে, তার মানে আমার যে ফাইলটা ওই ফাইলে 4 বিলিয়নটা ইন্টেজার ইন্টেজার না ফ্লোটিং ফ্লোটিং পয়েন্ট নাম্বার থাকে আর কি। যদি 120 বিলিয়ন হয় তাহলে ওই ফাইলে 120 বিলিয়নটা নাম্বার আছে। তার মানে নাম্বার যত বেশি ফাইলের সাইজটা তত বড়। ফাইলের সাইজ যত বড়, যেহেতু আমার পুরো ফাইলটাকে র্যামের মধ্যে লোড করতে হবে, তার মানে ওইটা র্যাম খাবে বেশি। তো যত বড় হয় তত হচ্ছে র্যামে জায়গা বেশি লাগে, কারণ এটা হচ্ছে সাইজ মানে ফাইলটার সাইজ তত বড় হয়। আর আরেকটা বিষয় যেটা আমার এখানে নাম্বারটা যত বড় হবে মডেলটা মোস্ট প্রবাবলি মানে মোস্ট অফ দ্য টাইম তত কেপেবল মডেল হয় আর কি। মানে কারণ তার হচ্ছে যেহেতু ভ্যালু বেশি, তার কম্পিউটেশন গুলো মোর অ্যাকুরেট, সেই কারণে সেগুলোর কেপাবিলিটিটা বেটার হয়। এটা হচ্ছে আর কি বিলিয়ন প্যারামিটার, এটা আর মডেলগুলোর মধ্যে এটাই আর কি। আরো অনেক কিছু আপনি এখান থেকে করতে পারবেন, আমি দুই একটা ফিচার এমনি বলি, এটা সবার জানার জন্য না। আপনি চাইলে এই যে মডেলটা কোথায় ইনস্টল করবেন এটা আপনি সিলেক্ট করতে পারবেন। এই ফাইল বাটনে ক্লিক করলে আপনি এখানে মডেলস ডিরেক্টরিতে গিয়ে এখানে গিয়ে আপনি আপনার মডেল কোথায় সেভ করবেন এটা আপনি চেঞ্জ করতে পারবেন। সো আমাদের যেহেতু সি ড্রাইভে ফাইল রাখার জন্য একটু কনস্ট্রেন্ট থাকে, এটাকে আপনি চেঞ্জ করে আপনার ডি ড্রাইভের কোনো একটা জায়গায় রেখে দিবেন মডেল ডাউনলোড করার আগে। তারপরে এখানে একটা ডেভেলপার মোড আছে, এটা ইউজ করে আপনি চাইলে আপনার যে মডেলটা এটাকে আপনার লোকাল সার্ভারে মানে আপনার ওয়াইফাই রাউটারের সার্ভারে এটাকে ওপেন করে দিতে পারবেন। তাহলে মনে করেন আপনি আপনার ফোন থেকে আপনার ল্যাপটপের ভিতরে একটা মডেল রান করতে পারবেন। এটা কারো ডিটেলে জানতে ইচ্ছা করলে এখানে ঢুকে আর কি ওদের ইনস্ট্রাকশন অনেক কিছু থাকে, ওগুলো দেখে নিতে পারবেন আর কি। আর চ্যাট মডেল আপনি চাইলে চ্যাটগুলোকে এখানে ফোল্ডার ক্রিয়েট করা যায়। সো লেটস সে আমি অফিসের যেই চ্যাটগুলো এগুলোকে যদি আমি সেম জায়গায় রাখতে চাই, আমি অফিস নামে একটা ফোল্ডার করে এগুলোকে আমি আমার চ্যাটগুলোকে হচ্ছে আমি ফোল্ডারের ভিতরে রেখে দিতে পারবো, পরে আমি সেগুলোকে এখান থেকে অ্যাক্সেস করতে পারবো। So এগুলোই হচ্ছে মোটামুটি আমাদের ফিচার। আর আরো কিছু যদি দেখতে চান, এখানে র্যামের কতটুকু র্যাম আমার ইউজ হচ্ছে সেটা আমি দেখতে পারবো। আর যখন আমি কোনো একটা মডেল লোড করি, লোড করার সময় আমার এই মডেলের সাইজটা লেখা থাকে, এই যে যেমন এটা 736 মেগাবাইট, তার মানে এটা আমার র্যামে 736 মেগাবাইট খাবে। এটা লেখা 2.83 গিগাবাইট, তার মানে এটা আমার র্যামে 2.83 গিগাবাইট খাবে। যেমন আমি যদি ওই মডেলটা ছেড়ে এই মডেলটা এখন লোড করি, দেখবেন আমার র্যামের ইউসেজ বেড়ে যাবে। এই যে 1.5 সামথিং ছিল, এখন 3 জিবির মতো হয়ে যাচ্ছে মেমোরি ইউটিলাইজেশন। সো যেটা লোড করবেন ওটা আপনি এখানে দেখতে পারবেন আর কি, যে কতটুকু মেমোরি ইউজ হচ্ছে।
থ্যাঙ্কস আ লট ভাই। এটা এই মানে হলিস্টিকলি সব কোশ্চেনই মোটামুটি অ্যান্সার পেয়ে গেছে। থ্যাংক ইউ।
জি ভাই। আর কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন্স?
আচ্ছা, একটা কোয়েরি ছিল, যেহেতু মডেলটা সি ড্রাইভে ডাউনলোড হয়ে গেছে, ডিলিট করার কোনো ওয়ে আছে কিনা, সো দ্যাট আমি এটা আবার ডি ড্রাইভে ডাউনলোড করতে পারি?
আমার মনে হয় কাট করে পেস্ট করে দিতে পারেন ডি ড্রাইভে।
ওকে।
মানে এটা ইনস্টল করতে কোনো অ্যাডমিনিস্ট্রেশন প্রিভিলেজ লাগে না যদি ডি ড্রাইভে থাকে আর কি। আর কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন ভাই?
আপনি কি মানে অ্যাপেল পিসি থেকে লগ ইন করলেন? মানে
হ্যাঁ, আমি ম্যাক
অ্যাপেল
ম্যাকে
ম্যাক
আছি।
থেকে দেখাচ্ছেন না?
জি।
ম্যাকের জন্য তো এরকম মানে আমরা তো দেখলাম যে উইন্ডোজ এর একটা দেখলাম ডাউনলোড করার জন্য, তাই না? ম্যাকেও তো সেম অলমোস্ট
সেম
তাই তো?
সেম সেম ম্যাকেও সেম, মানে আপনি ম্যাক থেকে লগ ইন করলে এখানে আপনাকে ডাউনলোড ফর ম্যাক দেখাবে। সো আমার ক্ষেত্রে ওইটাই দেখাচ্ছে কি, ডাউনলোড ফর ম্যাক।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে।
আর কোনো কোশ্চেন না থাকলে আমরা প্রবলি এন্ড করতে পারি। রেফাত ভাই একটু এন্ডিং রিমার্কস।
Thank you, everyone. So, thanks to Salman once again. So, যাদের যাদের আসলে হচ্ছে এই এলএম স্টুডিও রিলেটেড ইস্যুসটা হচ্ছে, ডেফিনেটলি আমাদের কারোর সাথে কানেক্ট করে, পার্সোনালি কানেক্ট করে উই ক্যান গেট ইট সলভ। আমি নিজেও ট্রাই করছি, আমারও হয়েছে। আমরা অলরেডি আইটির সাথে আগেই কথা বলেছিলাম, তারপরও সাম অফ ইউ মাইট হ্যাভ ফেস দ্য ইস্যু। তেমন কোনো ডিফিকাল্ট কিছু না, আমার সাথে কানেক্ট করতে পারেন। আদিবা আছে আমাদের টিমে, আই উইল ড্রপ হার কন্ট্যাক্ট অ্যাজ ওয়েল। জাস্ট আমাদের সাথে কানেক্ট করে এট এনি পয়েন্ট অফ টাইম ইউ ক্যান গেট ইট ডান। এলএম স্টুডিওটার ডাউনলোড করার জন্য যেই চ্যালেঞ্জটা হচ্ছিল, হয়তো সেকেন্ড টাইম ট্রাই করলে তখন হচ্ছে লোকেশন ডিরেক্টরিটা দেখায়, যাদের হচ্ছে আসলে কনফিউশন হচ্ছিল যে আমাদের লোকেশন ডিরেক্টরি চেঞ্জ করার অ্যাক্সেসটা থাকে না। সো ওই জিনিসটা করা যায় জাস্ট সেকেন্ড টাইম ডাউনলোড করার ট্রাই করলে। দ্যাট ইজ ওয়ান ডিরেকশন। অ্যান্ড আরেকটা হচ্ছে যেটা মডেল লোড করতে যাদের সমস্যা হচ্ছে, বেসিক্যালি আসলে র্যাম, আমাদের অফিসে যে ল্যাপটপ যেটা থাকে সেখানে র্যাম ইউজুয়ালি 8 জিবি টু ম্যাক্সিমাম 16 জিবি পর্যন্ত আমাদের র্যাম থাকে। দেন এগেইন আমরা হচ্ছে অনেকগুলো প্যারালাল অ্যাপ্লিকেশন আমরা চালাইতে থাকি কন্টিনিউয়াসলি। সো র্যামের কিছু পার্ট কিন্তু আমাদের অকুপাইড থাকে। সো খুব বেশি বড় মডেল যে আমরা সবসময় চালাইতে পারবো ব্যাপারটা ওরকম না। সো আমরা যেই মডেলগুলো লোড করতেছি বা ডাউনলোড করতেছি, ওইটা লিমিটেড সাইজের মধ্যে যেই মডেলগুলো আছে ওগুলো রান করলে we will be able to load the model, কোনো ইস্যুস হবে না। আর পার্সোনাল ইউজ কেসের জন্য তো ডেফিনেটলি আমরা we can use bigger models in bigger setup as well. So thanks once again. So I already have taken your opinion for the next session. So hopefully we will be seeing you on once again 25th August for the final session. And definitely we will be looking forward to having more avenues for building AI capability in the organization as well. So yeah, thanks once again. And I have already shared the attendance QR code and your feedback options as well. So kindly share your attendance as well. So thanks.